Hello there, I am Sye and I'm your host today, and I wanted to share with you some pretty interesting information that I acquired about potatoes. And this is something that you can read about yourself in a book called Diet Cults. I'm not all the way through the book, so I don't want to say that I think this book is great or not. I really don't know, but there's some interesting information in there, and probably beneficial in a lot of ways just to read through it, because it gives you a perspective that maybe is less biased than what you're used to hearing about food. Now, talking about food, the potato has there's at least two qualities about the potato that you probably didn't know that are preventing you from thinking accurately. And in order for you to really be rich and successful in life on multiple levels, you're going to want to be able to see the reality of things so you can act in accordance with what is true, as opposed to what maybe a fad diet or maybe somebody's opinion is about some subject. So, that being said, the potato, white potatoes, have gotten such a bad reputation. Well, here's one of the facts that you may not have known about potatoes. But there's an index called the satiety index, and on that index of 38 foods that were studied or that there was a study done with by Dr. Susanna Holt to see what had the lowest and highest satiety index. Potatoes had the highest satiety index of any other food. What does that mean? That means that they satisfied people who ate them for a longer period of time than any other food that was studied, and not just by a little bit, by far. The baseline was a 200 mark, and 300 and something was what the potato, the index for satiety was, and the closest thing to that was lingfish at 200 and something. So, I mean, low 200s. So basically, it won by a lot. And it also, having the satiety factor that it did, when people were given the opportunity after the study, or at least after this part of the study was concluded, 2 hours later, to eat as much food or as little food as they wanted to from a buffet that included whatever kind of foods that anybody else had access to, the people who ate the potatoes ate the least of anybody else during that time of eating whatever they wanted. So potatoes basically, and just so you know, later it was discovered for sure that satiety index, or the satiety of a food, has a lot to do with overall weight of people over time. So foods that are more satiating cause people to gain less weight or keep people at a consistent weight better than foods that do not. Now, the least satiating food in this study was croissants. Now, potatoes in their forms of chips and fried potatoes were also included in the study, and they had a very low rating. It wasn't as low as the croissant, but as a result of this and other studies, the U.S. government decided that they were not going to include starchy vegetables in, or as much starchy vegetables in school meals. So they basically took out things like lima beans, potatoes, and I wish I could remember exactly what else they took out, but starchy vegetables instead of high-fat fried foods, or specifically fried foods, which would have been the one that they should have removed from the school lunches, as opposed to the starchy vegetables, which actually are satiating and good for you. So, what do we learn from this? Well, okay, there's more to this too. Let's just take potatoes a little further, because I told you I was going to at least reveal two facts that you probably don't know about potatoes. But per unit cost, one a nutritional analysis of foods found that white potatoes of all foods were the highest in nutritional value per unit cost compared to all other foods except for one, which was the sweet potato. So all of the ideas that you may have about potatoes being starchy, high carb foods that are bad for you are based upon a misanalysis or a misunderstanding of actual analysis of foods that showed pretty much the opposite. And that being said, if you're going to fry your potatoes or you're going to eat chips, then you can expect to have a low satiation and therefore want to eat more and probably gain more weight. But let's take this a step further. Because the US government decided to take these starchy vegetables instead of the fatty fried foods out of the school's lunches, Chris Voigt, who was the head of the Washington Potato Committee or something like that at the time, decided he was going to rebel and he was going to eat only potatoes for 60 days just to show that it could be done and that it wasn't bad for you. So he did, and he kept his energy levels up, meaning he didn't crash or anything like that, and his blood glucose level or his blood sugar level dropped, his triglycerides dropped, and his overall cholesterol dropped. So he was, by his own admission, sick of potatoes before the 60 days were up, but this just shows you that the misunderstanding that people have had of potatoes is based upon the Atkins diet originally, and then later on the South Beach diet, which basically had a false understanding of carbohydrates being bad for people. Of course, there are different kinds of carbohydrates that are not as good for you, but in an overall way, it seems like the carbohydrates in combination with high amounts of fat that were fried were the real villain, I guess you could call it in this case. So now we have a different understanding of potatoes, and this is like life in general. If you really want to have an accurate understanding of life and therefore know what to do that is going to bring you what it is that you truly desire to have in life, then you have to go beyond the chatter that's all around us, telling us what is true and what's not true, and telling us what to think, and expand enough to dig a little bit deeper. And that's all you really have to do. Just dig a little bit deeper and look at the science, look at the people who are the experts, real experts. Read their books, look at their studies, see what they're saying too. But it's you're basically going to have to dig a little deeper to find the facts that are the important ones for you. And obviously, you're not going to be able to find all the knowledge. You don't have the time to do that. But you can get a lot more knowledge than what you currently have, and you can put yourself on a regular consumption of knowledge so that you at least have a higher understanding than what the masses of people out there do. So I thought this was a very interesting thing to share with you. I hope you liked it. Please let me know in the comments and by subscribing if you like this video. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. And if you question what I'm saying, then you can check out the book yourself, Diet Cults, and you can go and read about those studies online and find out for yourself what those say as well, without having to wonder if what I'm saying is really true or not. So thanks so much for watching, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.